Say hello if you're here, and I will just jump into the live to tape record of my newest podcast episode about just having one of those days. Okay? All right. So you can probably tell from the title of this episode that this is for you if you're having a day. Not a day like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. I have a lot of kids. It's just busy." When you're having a day that is bringing you to your knees, is making you question if you're capable of any of this. A day when you feel alone, but unable to really share about why today is so terribly hard and depleting. So, right off the bat, if you're feeling that way today, I want to give you 4 things that are true. I want to give you a rundown of 4 things that you can tell yourself in these tough days. And then I'm going to go into a day like that I had and sort of what happened in that day that really changed me forever. The first thing I want to tell you, if you're just having a day when you're thinking, "I don't know if I can do this today." Number 1, tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow's a new day, maybe early in the day, maybe a little too early to just like call it a day for today. But no matter what, I can tell you this. Tomorrow's a new day. And just get through today. It sucks. It's going to be a tough day. You're going to feel alone. You're going to feel negative. You're going to feel low. But tomorrow you have an opportunity to start fresh and start over. And yes, all the same problems will be there. But maybe your mindset will just be in just enough of a lighter place to where it's okay tomorrow, okay? The second thing I want to tell you, if you're just having one of those days where you just want to crumble into a ball and cry in your friend's lap like I did in the story I'm about to share, you don't need to fix it today. You don't. What's happening is tough. What's happening is making you feel alone and completely demoralized. You don't have to fix it though. You don't. That's not your job today. Today, your job is to survive, and we don't need to focus on fixing. The third thing I want to tell you on this day that you're having, girl, you're not alone. You're not alone. You know that coming here to She Just Glows, the podcast, I would say a big part of my mission is just reminding you of that simple fact. We all have stuff. We all have crap. We all have messy marriages and kids who fight and relationships with friends and family members that are sad and broken. We've all got that stuff. And I always try to come here and share from a place of realness, and I get it, more than a place of, "Hey, I've got this all figured out. Let me teach you how to get through it." But in the process, I do try to teach you to get through it, and that's why I have started Joy Coaching a few years ago. It is the passion of my life. Yes, I'm a mom. Yes, I'm a wife. But I feel that my life's purpose, even in addition to those things, is being here and communicating with you and connecting with you. So, number 1, tomorrow's a new day. Number 2, you don't have to fix it. Number 3, you're not alone. And by the way, if you need support and just someone to cheer you on in whatever you're going through right now with no judgment whatsoever, whether it's a tough marriage situation or alcohol or feeling stuck in your life, even though your life to everyone else looks positively perfect, reach out to me. I have clients just like you. I'm just like you. And we can get through this together. We can get you set up with a 12-pack of sessions with me, 45-minute one-on-one private custom coaching sessions. I also have like year commitments that we can talk about. So reach out. You don't need to do this alone. The fourth thing I want to tell you if you're having a day is you don't have to do this perfectly. You might be expecting that of yourself, but you don't. You don't need to be doing this thing perfectly. And boy, do I have a story for you when we talk about showing up to this mom thing and barely getting by and feeling that we were such a high achiever in our previous life. We came from a high-powered career. We came from a very competitive industry. I mean, I was in TV news. I thought that was the hardest thing I'd ever experienced in life. And then I became a mom, and now we're all laughing, right? That whatever your high-powered job was before this, and I know a lot of you have those and had those, you certainly get a heavy helping of humble pie when you become a mom, don't you? Right? So what I do every other episode here on She Just Glows, the podcast, is I read a post that I shared that was very popular or that got a lot of feedback or response, or maybe just one of my favorite posts, because over on my website, shejustglows.com, I have written over 400 essays about motherhood and the struggle and the beauty and the messy, just all of the things. And that's really how I started as a writer. And after several years of writing for She Just Glows and connecting with you that way via Facebook back then, because we didn't even have Instagram yet, that's how everything began. And then we've built to Instagram. I'm even on TikTok now. I've started this podcast, which I absolutely love because I love the spoken word. There's so much more you can express when you speak it rather than just writing it. And then, as I mentioned, I'm a joy coach for moms just like you. So thank you for being here. And this post that I'm going to read today is called When You Don't Think You Can Make It Through the Day. And I wanted to shorten that for the podcast, but I couldn't. There's just those days when you don't think you can make it through the day. And that's the title because that's what it is, okay? This was a day back in 2018 or so when I had just had my fourth baby. At the time, it just felt like everything was going wrong behind the scenes, but it was things back then that I didn't feel I could share. One of them was my husband's company was struggling, and we were in a bad financial situation for several months. That was scary. We had just bought a house and we had 4 children, and we had just hired an au pair from Mexico who was living with us, actually living in the guest room that I'm recording in right now, to take care of our 4 kids full time and live with us. And not only did my husband's company experience a tough time financially, which actually wasn't even their fault. I won't even get into it, but it wasn't their fault. It was someone who didn't pay them what they were owed. But something else that was happening behind the scenes was I had just gotten this au pair, which I think at the time I was kind of embarrassed that I needed that help. And I maybe didn't feel like it was a relatable thing to share, which now, like several years later, I'm just like, screw it. It may not be relatable that I had an au pair, but I did. And I want to share my story. And actually, a lot of you guys do have au pairs. And I have so much to share about the au pair selection and living process. Maybe I should do a post or an episode on that at some point. But I had just hired this woman, a teenager really. I think she was like 18 or 19, to come and live with us. And we had her driving a spare vehicle, and she put diesel in it instead of unleaded gas. And so it ruined the car. And I had this great plan of having her take and pick up my oldest from school. At the time, the round trip to and from his kindergarten class was about an hour. And so it was so exciting that someone else would be doing that, as I had a nursing newborn. For obvious reasons, sometimes you can't go a whole hour without nursing that newborn. And so what had happened right before I wrote this post was, in addition to our financial stress, we had an au pair that we were paying, but our car for her wasn't functioning. And so I had to still drive everyone to school, which probably why I didn't share about this at the time was, oh, poor you, you had to drive your own kid to school. But that's where I was at. I had a bunch of little kids. I had a nursing baby, and there was just a lot happening behind the scenes. And maybe that's you in your life today. You may not have an au pair or have a husband, have a financial situation that's going on, but it might be, a struggle in your marriage, or a struggle with one of your children, or a broken relationship with your mom, or a bad time at work and just like nothing's working. So we all have things that are happening below the surface that we can't always share, but that's sort of where I was at when I wrote this post. I say at the beginning, I may seem like I have it all together, but I can assure you I do not. A couple months back, all the stresses and frustrations caught up with me, and I literally broke. Have you ever been there? It was only 7:12 a.m. and already I could feel my heart racing. It was the last day of school. My husband was traveling and every kid needed more than I could give. Mom, did you get a gift for my teacher? It was the last week of school and Teacher Appreciation Week, and all week my kid had gone to school empty-handed because I just hadn't gotten it together enough to get a special gift for his teacher. Side note, can we just slide Teacher Appreciation Week to a different week of the school year? Because I cannot. Why is it always at the end of the year when there's so much going on? All the different crazy hat day, crazy sock day, Teacher Appreciation Week. I'm all about celebrating the teachers, but it's a lot in the last week or two of school. I'd meant to come up with a sweet gift for his wonderful teacher. One day it's flowers, another day it's candy, etc., but I just hadn't been able to. Heck, I couldn't even get it together enough to get milk and bread for my kids, much less find the exact flower my teacher had requested. Nope. Much less find the exact flower the teacher had requested and buy it. I was treading water, and I started to feel like I was drowning. No, I said, looking down and feeling like a failure. I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to get anything for her. I knew I'd poured everything I had into our family that week, but as the words fell out of my mouth, it was confirmation that my best just wasn't good enough. My son started crying hysterically. But I'm the only one who hasn't brought something this week, he choked out. Okay, I said, my mind racing. We were already late for school. My eyes darted around the house to find something, anything that could fix this situation so that we could start loading the car. How about an apple, a pack of gum, a picture frame? Didn't they used to bring teachers apples? Isn't that a thing? Not anymore. There's so much pressure on us these days, you guys. In that moment, my son's eyes fell on a pot of tulips on our dining room table. Tulips that a friend had brought me a few days before. A gift that, in a week of overwhelm and stress, had reminded me that everything was going to be okay. I know it sounds silly, but those flowers were mine. And all week, they'd been my secret reminder to myself that everything was going to be okay. As I considered my son's innocent request, my eyes filled with rage. This one thing, this pot of flowers felt like the last thing left. The only thing that was left for me, that was keeping me afloat. I'd given everything else away. Fine, I screamed. Take the flowers to your teacher. They're my flowers, but you can take them. The words flew out of my mouth, forcefully and angrily. The rage combined with a deep sadness in my throat as I slid on my sunglasses, and the tears began streaming down my cheeks. I had nothing left to give. I know that it sounds silly, but in that moment, that desperate moment, that is truly what it felt like. I threw the flower pot in the back of the car, made sure everyone was buckled, and muttered, "Mommy is not going to be talking on the way to school today." I cried hard in that front seat for the entire 30-minute drive to school. I blasted worship music so the kids wouldn't hear my sobs. I felt alone. I felt defeated. I felt like I wasn't just misstepping, but failing at every level. As the next song came on the radio, I meditated on the words because they were literally all I had. You guys know this song? Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. And if you know that song, you're welcome for not singing it and like terrorizing you with my voice. But man, it's just such a great song. It's by Matt Maher. I think that's how you say his name. Maher. At least the one I listened to is, and maybe he didn't actually pen the song, but that's the version that I love. As I strained to not make a sound as I cried, I clenched the steering wheel and prayed a prayer I can tell you I'd never ever prayed before. Jesus, please help me make it through this day. After dropping the kids off, I realized I'd made plans to meet up with a friend for a walk on the water. Crap. She was a newer friend, and there was no way I would be getting through our conversation without crumbling in front of her. I can't let her see me like this. She probably thinks I have it all together, and I don't. Now she will know. Usually I'd make up an excuse and cancel, but for some reason I didn't. Even though she was a new friend, I made a bold decision to be real. How's your day going? That was all she got out before my face twisted into an endless stream of tears and sobs. It was one of those days. Like all someone needs to do is look you in the eye and ask a single question and you're letting it all out. You guys, it was a full-on ugly cry. There's no way I'm going back from here, I thought. I'm literally dumping this in her lap and she doesn't even know me that well. But there was no going back. I couldn't hide my stress. I couldn't mask my overwhelm. I let it out. We finally sat on a park bench near the seawall where people fish. I got to the part where my son needed the tulips. It was a metaphor for every last thing being taken from me. For feeling like nothing I do is good enough. For feeling that my best is still failing. There was no more keeping it in. I'd been straining my sobs all morning in the car, but now we were outside and the kids, except my baby, were gone. No one could hear me but her, and she sat there and received my pain. I was bawling. I was wailing. I could no longer control the sounds coming out of my mouth. I was broken. In that moment, I'll never forget the voice I heard. A gruff, overweight fisherman who'd been on the seawall listening to my whole story, turned around, looked me in the eye, and this is what he said. You're doing a great job, Mama. You have the hardest job in the world. I could never do what you do. You are amazing. Even now, this was years ago, but like even now hearing those words from this gruff, scruffy, tough-looking fisherman touches me. It just touches me. It was so funny to hear those tender words coming from him, but they did. Thank you, I mumbled, and I added a joke that I was sorry he had to listen to a crazy lady while he was fishing. I clearly had lost any sense of decency and did not care who had heard my wails. As weird as it sounds, do you guys ever feel this way? The words of strangers stay with you. After that day, that new friend became a real friend, and we've shared some real stuff. After that, I realized it's okay to let the walls down. After that, I also realized I can't control everything, and so I made a decision. And this is huge. I will control what I can, and the rest I'll give to God. It's so much easier to hand him the hard stuff and take it off my plate. It doesn't always come naturally, and I'm definitely a work in progress, but it's helped me remember the good stuff. Like fishermen and tulips and real friends. What a story. I just love remembering that story. I sort of forgot about the fisherman in the midst of it and just how hearing those words from a complete stranger was so reassuring. So I just want to remind you, if this is you right now and you're struggling with something under the surface, unspoken, it's making you feel alone and just completely defeated, you're not alone. You're not alone. Thank you for taking this few minutes to spend with me. I'm so glad you're here. Bye, guys.